Hey, everyone. It is Friday, and we are back for another episode of the 6-5 podcast, episode 217. And I am manifesting us being one of the 20 most listened to podcasts in the world. I'm copying other people, but it's quite well listened to. In fact, I asked Grok about it, and it told me that it is quite an influential podcast, Pat. And Grok is never wrong, neither Grok with a Q or Grok with a K. So when Grok says you're kicking butt, it means you are. But Mr. Moorhead, I've been overseas. I've missed you. I haven't been texting you in the morning as much as you like. And I know how you like to wake up in the morning and get that morning. How you doing, bestie? Text from me. But you've had to settle for random texts at random times because I don't even know what day it is. Yesterday, I went to an event, Pat, and check this out. I said, is today the 13th?
Oh my
It
gosh.
was the 16th, everybody. But the good news is I found my bearings, did my thing, had a great week, been to London, been to Chicago, saw my mama, got home. Pat, how you doing today, buddy? How are you other than missing my texts?
Man, I'm doing great, Dan. You know, I'm pulling 12, 14-hour days like you. It's exhilarating. I mean, there's so much going on here, and there's only a few things I can count on. And one of these is the 6-5 podcast at 9 a.m. Central every Friday with my bestie. Doing well. I'm 7 weeks into an 8-week gut restoration project, and I just have to take the wipeout drugs for another week, and then I'm going to start rebuilding my gut biome.
Well, you got to love that. I mean, I know it's been beating you up a bit at times, but from what I understand, and after a 14-hour long, or what felt like that, it was actually like 30-minute lecture from my dad about food is killing me. He actually was talking about the same thing, gut health. And so We're hearing more about it. And of course, we hear it on some of the podcasts we listen to. I know you're a big Huberman guy, but there's a lot of focus on gut health and a relationship to longevity. And, when you want to be the world's most important analyst like you are, you need to be alive. That's really important. And so as you're getting older, what are you now, about 35? You need to be able to survive into your 40s in terms of being able to become a great analyst, Pat. But no, we got a great show today. We got so much content to cover. We may even have a bonus topic today. I don't know. But we'll call it the 6-5 with a bonus, or the 7-5. I mean, it depends. It's all architecture. We're going to talk about OpenAI, some big announcements this week, a new rollout of a product, Google I/O. Cisco had earnings. That's the only earnings we're going to talk about this week. Then we're going to hit on Dell AI server orders and why their stock went parabolic this week. Geez, that's a crazy run, by the way. AWS just happened to change CEOs, announced a change of a CEO this week. Kind of a big deal. Unexpected? I don't know. We can talk about that. IBM and Palo Alto partnered up on some AI-powered security. We'll have a brief hit on that one. And then we're going to dive into a Synopsys divestiture that's been out there a bit, but we've wanted to and hadn't gotten to it. We're going to get to it this week. For everyone out there, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, we have no idea what you've been doing. It's a huge mistake. We are glad that you're here to correct that with us this week. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we'd like to have you for all of our shows each and every week. And then all the events will be out over the next few weeks, which will be bountiful, plentiful. But we cover 6 topics, 5 minutes each, sometimes 7, sometimes more than 5 minutes each. But it's thematic. This show is for information and entertainment purposes only. And while we will be talking about publicly traded companies, don't take anything I say as investment advice. I'll let Pat make the determination if he wants to offer any investment advice. I don't think he does. By the way, though, Pat was offering some pretty damn good advice this week in New York on the sets of Yahoo Finance, CNBC. Check out the Twitters. He was there looking good, looking skinny. I know you don't like when I talk about that publicly, Pat, but you've definitely looked like half the man you used to be, but twice as energized. Let's get started. OpenAI for ChatGPT 4.0. What's going on?
Yeah, it's literally been an incredible week. And just for a little bit of backdrop here, if it's not evident, right, the frothy generative AI discussions, tech enablement, and end user benefits are just alive and well, and everybody's doing this amazing judo move. You have upstarts like OpenAI, who are backed by Microsoft, You have the stalwarts of AI like Google, right, and Microsoft. And on the consumer side, it's super frothy. We're going into Build next week from Microsoft, where I'm sure we're going to hear their next play. And then we hit WWDC in June, which shows Apple's play. So OpenAI made some major announcements the day before Google I/O, which we're going to talk about. And first of all, it was just an amazing array, live demos. Sure, there were some recorded ones, but it was literally the demos that were during the event were live, which I super appreciate. And they came in multiple buckets. People were speculating, hey, would it be a Google search competitor? Would it be GPT-5? It was none of those. What it was is GTP4 making. Well, I'm getting there. GTP4. We can start with 4.0 if you'd like.
No, I just wanted to do the O. It made me think of the movie Office Space. Anyway, never mind.
We'll
get back to that.
So yeah, the biggest news was GPT 4.0 for Omni model, which I like to call multimodal, and that's the combination of text, voice, image, and video all combined. And there was this incredible voice overlay on top of that, which is from the demos is absolutely remarkable. Now, I thought I was using the enhanced voice mode when I chose 4.0, but in fact, I wasn't. I was using the logic part of that, but not what some people are considering this flirty and funnier version. Some of the notables here, right? A Mac OS desktop app came out, which, by the way, is a lot harder to shut down than actually almost impossible to shut down versus, let's say, an iOS or Mac or iPad OS application. Does not currently touch the neural processor on Apple, but maybe we'll see that at WWDC. Other things came out. They talked about having 100 million paid users, which is pretty awesome. So from a monetization point, GPT 4.0 is free, and so is GTP4, which is a huge delta. What you do get is you get a bigger context window if it's paid. They also made major enhancements to the API. It's 50% cheaper and 5x the rate limit. So net, this company is going for it, recognizes the large company threat, and they're trying to build as many users as they possibly can. And like I said on Yahoo Finance, if you can tap into that monetization stream, I think I said this on CNBC too, once you can get enough eyeballs on it and people using your product, you can then go and monetize it. And as we'll discuss, Google might be behind, but it's not kind of a night and day difference.
Yeah, you hit a lot of good points there, Pat. I mean, I can't help but think one is like, how Satya wrote that thing, we've got it up, we've got it down, we've got it right, we've got it left, we've got it surrounded. Yeah, Satya is a badass, by the way. Don't mistake anyway. He seems really nice, but he's a badass. He's built an amazing company. And of course, Microsoft's going for it too, because they're going to build their own. They're going to have open. They're going to let everything else in. That's why they're gaining market share. The interesting thing though is with this stuff on Apple, that we're hearing, right, about them getting Apple natively on the device. Like, think about like how OpenAI has made itself a complete moat in between the two biggest companies in the world, and they're creating this codependency. It's wild how this thing is kind of evolving. And man, Sam is boring. He is so boring. I listened to him on the All In. I mean, that was the worst guest visit ever. I was listening to it like 2 a.m, driving between San Antonio and Houston last week. Excited because it's like, oh my gosh, Sam Altman's on the pod, and this is the All In, the one I listen to pretty frequently, and it was terrible. But the setup for the surprise was really, really good. I mean, the 4.0 demos are mind blowing. They're very interesting. It's the rapid innovation is hard to digest how quickly we are evolving. You know, if you look back at the original GPT, it was actually really terrible. The answers were bad, the data was old, but the concept was good, meaning like summary, abstract. You know, I tell everybody
image creation through DALL-E 3 was good.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing awesome stuff. Sora was trained on YouTube or whatever it was, but New York Times. There's all these interesting sort of nuances there. But I mean, where we're going is really interesting. It's pretty fun and exciting. But like, listen, I mean, they are disrupting. They're bringing contrived empathy to the platform, and I call it that because it's not real. Everyone just understand that she might be flirting with you, but she doesn't love you. The movie Her is a great movie to go back and watch because it's going on, but it is wild how quickly this has proliferated from kind of like a new way to organize searches into a single to now, you know, basically doing your kids' homework. And so, you know, congratulations to OpenAI. I mean, look, the building and what I expect the innovators to do around this will be really interesting. Of course, it's a lot of closed architecture, so there's not a lot that others will be able to build and access, but it does also start to show the possibility, which will create all kinds of energy in the open source communities to figure out how to build some of these capabilities on top of Llama and other open source models, which I expect to grow as well. Now, nobody's commenting on the amount of power this thing's going to use, and so I'm going to keep going back to that, Pat. I have no idea how we are going to power the proliferation of these these large language models. I can't quite figure it out, and you know, it's like 100 times more energy when you're doing a search on these things than when you're doing a Google search. So how do we have the entanglement of these two things to not use generative for everything until we have some way to deal with that situation? Can we talk about nuclear fission? No, we're not going to talk about it here, but we're probably going to need to pursue that at some point because I don't see how else we're going to get the grid to support all this. I want to go down a total rabbit hole. We don't have time. Let's bounce to the next one, which is Google. And by the way, you know, this is really interesting because clearly OpenAI was playing they were playing on the fact, OpenAI was playing on the fact that Google I/O was coming. They wanted to get ahead of it. They wanted to create a major buzz, a major wave. Mission accomplished, took the eye off. By the way, best tweet of Google I/O was TechCrunch. They put out a 45-second review that showed every executive saying AI. That was it. It was just AI, 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 AI. And it was like 45 seconds straight. I think the Thomas Kurian keynote had like 102 AI comments in it. And then obviously across the entire presentation. But Google didn't just release a couple of things. It was like 100 things that was released. So there's no way we can cover the gambit. I want to talk about a couple things that caught my attention. And by the way, Pat, I don't think GPT 4.0 got that far out ahead of what Google presented. I think they both presented a lot of the same kind of capabilities in different sort of wrappers. And so, you know, they've got the next generation of Astra, or whatever they call their Project Astra, which is the AI agent for life. This is, you know, it's basically able to reason, respond, live audio, video. You know, it can take a pixel recording. It can handle and engage with a live feed. It's multimodal. I don't think they showed it as something that could be interrupted, which was really an interesting thing. Did you mention that, by the way?
No, I didn't.
That was a super trippy thing, in my opinion, was the ability to like multi-turn these things, but actually change the direction of the conversation midstream. But you know, so that's a really interesting thing that they rolled out. I don't think it's actually available yet, though. I think it's in demo and beta, but it sounded really interesting. Another thing they did show, Pat, I don't know if you saw this, but did you see Notebook LM? It's an interesting note-taking app, but it's like helping kids with homework. So it's basically taking notes and then being able to take the info and then be able to go out to a model and have the model help the kids further understand, transcribe, interact. So it's not exactly like the tutor mode, which was pretty awesome, but did make me cynically ask a question, Pat, is do we even need college anymore? I'm really just about to send my kid to Baylor. I'm not quite sure what I'm paying for. Put a screenshot of the problem and have like a personal tutor walk you through the problem solving. So
maybe you're paying for the frat parties.
Fraternity, right? You're not supposed to say frat. I don't know.
Oh.
We'll have to ask Connor. I think he was a fraternity guy, wasn't he? My fraternity, I was in it for like a minute before I had my kids, so I never learned that. But I remember being yelled at for saying frat once. So another really interesting one was, in my opinion, was the search video. So being able to basically show an image or show a video search and then have it be able to answer questions about it. By the way, I don't know about you, Pat, but yesterday someone showed me this was a GPT one, but someone actually showed me a demo. So I spoke yesterday at this Kearney Future of Product Summit. They took a picture of me on the stage with about 5 other people, and they started asking a question about where are we, who's up on stage, what is this event about? And my gosh, it was crazy. Just images. Just took one image. That was it, and it was able to do all that work. So this stuff's moving really fast. And then the last one I'll say is their VO Video was interesting to me. The VO Video product, which was their sort of take on of Sora. I don't know how quick that's going to grow, but Google has the data, probably less controversy on where their data is coming from with YouTube. But those are 4 or 5 things to me. But overall, I don't know that they got on parity, but I don't think they lost their lead in a meaningful way where people were like, holy crap, Google's out and OpenAI's in. But the consensus out there is that OpenAI's a little bit ahead.
It's interesting. One thing I pointed out on CNBC is the big difference here between Google and OpenAI is Google actually has to make money. Now, Google can not hide what they do, but they can cover losses from areas that are super profitable. But like you said, and whether it's a 100x differential, like Sundar said, or a 10x differential, like I've heard, between general machine learning and by the way, I think Sundar, that comparison is generalized indexing and search versus doing the transaction on generative AI. So yeah, they actually have to make money, and if they were going to go, get rid of search and go all generative AI, their costs would skyrocket. And I think that's a key here. And Google did what you would expect, is they refined what they have out there, right? Very similar to the way that 4.0 is more efficient. They brought out 1.5 Gemini 1.5 Flash that was optimized, and it has a longer context window. So, and then on 1.5 Pro, right, they increased context window to 2 million tokens. By the way, it's so confusing because Pro isn't even lit up yet. I've been a Google backend customer for 13 years, and I keep waiting. And it seems to me that these features hit like a year after Google brings them out, and it's kind of frustrating. I'm using Gemini Advanced Personal, paid on my own personal Gmail, but I can't even get that capability on my workspace account. Yes, I know it's not all about me, but you can imagine.
Wait, what?
Yeah, well, no, it's not always about me, but it could
there's
be.
less of you to be about nowadays.
Exactly. And I couldn't help but it being a really interesting turn here, because when Google first started out, they had no advertising, and they were giving the best search away for free and investing a ton of money, and very similar to what we're seeing with OpenAI. And at the time, the Google of the industry for things like search and advertising wasn't Mosaic in the open internet because it sucked. It was America Online, right? That you would pay a service fee to go in and get all of your information that was very much monetized. Steve Case was the founder, by the way. So yeah, I'm seeing some really interesting parallels here. And the way that I look at this is that Google doesn't have to be first. They just can't be too late with their capabilities. I've seen some issues with Gemini as well on recency. And, so for instance, I did a search on Google Cloud Next 2024, and it told me it didn't even happen yet. Right. Which is just weird, because all whether it was Bard or just Gemini up to that point had plugged into real time events. Overview, right, in Google search is this first foray, second foray into this, where you'll get once you do a Google search, you will get a content block called an AI overview, and that might be at the top, it might be at the bottom, it might be at the middle, it might be interspersed with the blue links, TBD. But I do think Google did enough to take a lot of the worry out of it. So I think as soon as true 4.0 gets out there and multimodal, which it's not, which it competes with what Google's calling a project called Astra, that's when I think we'll see how far behind and the ability for for OpenAI to siphon off Google users. By the way, for the record, there's more paid OpenAI users than there are Gemini users out there, which was a real shocker to me. But ChatGPT is kind of like when Facebook first came out, or some new follow-on social media site. It's gone absolutely viral.
All right, we good? We got that one? That was a lot. Hey, these two things, by the way, were so big. Honestly, we could have done entire shows on each of them.
Yeah.
We're going to go a little bit quicker here because, we don't have any topics that are quite as cool as those two. Pat, will we ever get to talk about anything but AI again? Is it over for us?
No, I think we will. These things all come in phases, right? We were talking about the hybrid multi-cloud forever and ever and ever and ever before generative AI came out. And then before that, it was machine learning.
Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about something that isn't directly just AI? Let's talk about a pretty solid quarter result for Cisco.
Yeah, a little background here. If you look at how Cisco had done historically, previous 4 quarters had beat on EPS and beat on revenue. The big surprise, though, was last quarter's guide. And the reason that they had a beat for this quarter is because they beat the lower expectations, and the stock, at least in the after hours, was up 7%. But it's all about the digestion of the amount of networking equipment that they sold in. Couple highlights for me, right? Software, big percentage of revenue, over 50%, I think 54%. You combine software and services, it's 65% of revenue. And that is just an astounding turn of events. When you think of Cisco, you think of network equipment. They are 65% software and services company. And sure, part of that is network as a service, some of that is security service, but it's a services company, baby. I mean, even Amazon is infrastructure as a service, and PaaS and things like that. Final comment, a change here. Gary Steele is now president of go-to-market, and he's basically the chief revenue officer. Unclear if he'll get all the marketing capabilities as well, probably the go-to-market capabilities beyond the brand. But Gary Steele, we've had him on the 6.5 many times. I'm interested to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, I think that was a nice kind of consolidated messaging on what's going on there, Pat. Look, there's a lot of positive in the quarter. I mean, of course, on a year-over-year basis, a lot of people, it's kind of interesting because it was down revenue-wise, somewhat precipitously, but the business is squaring off in a way that I think is really, really positive. There was, the right growth in the right area. So for a number of quarters in a row, I've been talking about, you have to watch the subscription and the ARR metrics. The market wants to understand, is this company making the pivot? Now, of course, it's great that the Splunk revenue is now included. So the company's ARR revenue is at $29.2 billion. That's not nothing, and with Splunk, they're up 22% year on year, and the product ARR is up too. So they're able to add subscription to the products they're selling, and that's up 44%. And now, Pat, the other thing that's interesting, and you said this, but 54% of their revenue is subscription. They've made the pivot, everybody. Like this is not
Yeah.
this is not a hardware box company. Now, the way
Yeah.
the stock's been valued is kind of like it is. And so
Exactly.
this is one of those companies that has really changed its tune. They've met and done what they've promised they would do to the market, and they haven't really gotten a lot of credit for it yet. And so I put it in a category of companies that people need to be paying attention to because they're executing on their plan. The Splunk thing will give it more visibility there. And I like the move with Gary. I know Gary very well. I think he's going to come in and do a really good job. That meant Jeff Sherritts is out after a very long tenure there. But you know what? I'm sure Gary will come in. He'll bring the energy. He's going to bring growth. He knows how to grow businesses. He's got the track record. And obviously, he delivered Splunk to Cisco, which was a big deal too. Last thought on this one. They did beat raise. So while I did say they were down, they did beat raise. And right now, I swear the guidance is everything. You know, you and I constantly go back on these earnings conversations, and we talk about the why is it down so much? Why is it down so much? They did great. Yeah. They beat. Well, the problem was they also want a raise. Didn't get a raise. So, all right, they got it all. Stock went up a little bit, but I still think the company's probably a little bit undervalued for how important it is to the network, to the edge, to the branch, to the whole opportunity, as well as security, and also just where it valuates for how much subscription it now has. All right, let's move on, Pat. You and I both, I think, kind of put out a victory lap sort of tweet in some ways that we've been saying for a long time that Dell is sort of misunderstood, misvalued. We obviously know the top execs there very well. I spend time with Michael and Jeff and the leadership, and have had the chance to really get to understand their vision on AI and the business. And, our findings have been that they're playing nice, but they're winning. And so this week, the stock actually went up to 152 a share. It was named a top pick by Morgan Stanley based on its AI server demand. But furthermore, Pat, the stock is up like 5-fold from a year ago.
It's up 100% over 6 months.
Yeah, but I mean, it was $35 or so at some point in 2023 was what it was trading at. So it has had this amazing run. They're expected to have $10 billion in server revenue. The shares are up 99% in 24. And, they've seen an incredible rate of growth. Only Supermicro as an OEM has done better. And so that's basically been a byproduct of Jensen Huang walking the floor of the NVIDIA GTC event. I can't quote him, but he basically said, and I mean, is he the godfather now or what? But he basically pointed at Dell and said, all the things you need to build your AI factories, you can get from Dell Technologies. So whatever they did, magical. And obviously, I think next week, what is it? Michael and Jensen and Bill McDermott are getting on camera together. Maybe the only video that's maybe a priority over a 6.5 video, where, by the way, Bill McDermott is going to speak, and Jensen and Michael have spoken, in case anybody hasn't signed up for that yet. It's pretty awesome, isn't it, Pat? So Dell is there. Oh, what the quote in the CNBC article, by the way, is Michael is here and he's happy to take your order. Won't confirm. I don't know, Pat. Great for Dell. We're heading to Dell Tech World Sunday night because we love working on the weekends.
We do. We love that.
But if we're going to do it, we're going to do it for the coolest and most exciting tech companies on the planet. And Dell is now one of them.
Yeah. So Dan, a year ago, right, people were asking us, hey, is there anything above Microsoft when it comes to this generative AI? And, Google was in the mix, and then they had stumble after stumble on Bard, and even some of the demos were being questioned. But the big question we got was who were the next wave of people who could benefit? And, the companies like IBM and companies like ServiceNow and folks like that. When it came to infrastructure, we were talking about Dell. So you have Supermicro, and investors realize that's an AI play for the hyperscalers. But who is the AI play for the tier two folks and the on-prem folks? And given, the openness of the company to talk about that giant backlog of AI servers that they had, that Jeff Clark rolled out. And then a couple quarters after it started to click in, the gear went into place. Boom, here we go. And the stock is cooking, and they're being rewarded for that. So to me, it's a very simple equation. Dell said they were going to be part of this, and then they are part of this, and investors are baking that in. And if I compare, Lenovo isn't getting as big lift on that. HPE is going for value, not volume. So we are where we are.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. And I know I took a lot of the oxygen on that one, Pat, but I had fun. I tweeted something about it, got a lot of engagement on it because basically mind blown, dude. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, you and I have kind of at times postulated about the fact that these OEMs they don't move a lot. They're kind
Yeah.
of Cisco and Dell and HPE. But Dell has absolutely separated itself right now from the pack in terms of the way the market is treating it. It landed its AI message. It did. It got it done, and good for them. I mean, it shows that if you get it right and you get Jensen to give you a little bit of an anointment, you can see your stock go up 500% in like less than 2 years. Amazing. Hey, Pat, you and I were both thrown off. We had a bit of an exchange over the pond about a big shift that's going on at AWS. Adam Selipsky is stepping down as of about 2 weeks from now. Matt Garman is in. You know Matt well. You've worked with him over the years. What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, so everybody, and not everybody, but the instant any senior executive steps down, a lot of questions happen. That's just natural. And the first thing I do is I go look at the public statements, right, to determine what the story is. And 99 times out of 100, if the prior executive is not quoted in there, then there's something wrong. They're either leaving the company, there were improprieties, or they were fired suddenly. None of that happened. In fact, there was a 3-part blog, right, from Andy Jassy, Adam, and Matt coming in there, which it seemed very planned to me. And when I connect this to this off the chain, amazing performance they had the quarter before, then it looks more like a plan. And by the way, Matt may have been in charge of sales and marketing, but this guy is a product guy. Okay, go look at his LinkedIn. He was the first product manager for EC2, and he ran product management and product marketing. He's a product guy. He's not a marketing guy. He's not a sales guy. But to me, he had to punch that ticket to give the permission to get the big role. There is a question on whether AWS is gaining AI market share or losing AI market share. It's really hard to determine. If you look at just the overall numbers for AWS, and I think it'd be hard to parse out IaaS from PaaS, but IaaS and PaaS are kind of like peanut butter and jelly. I'm okay with that. They gain market share. And by the way, Azure in some measurements gained, and some they lost. So it is murky as heck, because that would be the only thing if Andy didn't see the generative AI progress that he was looking for and the company was looking for. Can I tell you one thing though, Dan? I am super.
You can tell me more than one.
I am super excited to see. I always loved Andy Jassy's previews of AWS. It was one slide per offering, core value proposition, customer problem they were solving, what their solution was, and what the impact. I might be a CEO of an industry analyst company and a couple other co-founder, but I'm a product guy. I freaking love that. That's exactly what I want to see. And I think with Garmin coming in, I am hopeful that that's what we will see. It's a simplified message that's about products.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take a little bit of a markets approach here and just give a little bit of perspective as to what I think happened. And of course, this is all speculation. I mean, we never know 100%. First of all, Solipsky did a very good job. This company got onto $100 billion run rate business under his tutelage, and in being the succession CEO of Andy Jassy, who's now the CEO of the company. That was not easy shoes to fill, because this was his baby. And he may be taking on the larger Amazon now and being the CEO of the whole company, but you have to be sure that he's watching that thing very closely. I'm sure he feels very personally attached to that business and the growth of the business. Pat, you mentioned about, are they gaining? Are they not? I actually don't think it mattered. I do think the decision for the transition had to do with the perception that AWS had fallen behind on AI. It didn't actually have to do with the fact of whether or not they are growing or not. I actually believe they've done a good job. They've done a lot of catch up with AI. They've made a lot of good moves, the Anthropic moves, what they've been able to build in-house with Q. But the perception right now and the market share data is showing that both Microsoft and Google over the past several quarters has gained market share, and AWS is somewhat flattened out overall. Now, some of that market taking actually was from the smaller providers. It wasn't actually all from AWS. And when you look at that closely, but the fact is you are at the rate of growth, meaning just the fact that Microsoft is growing at almost a 2x rate. There's only a few more quarters before, technically speaking, Microsoft will become bigger than AWS. And again, the way cloud is calculated is opaque. It's not very clear. We always kind of gave AWS a bit of an advantage because it's also seen as the kind of true pure IaaS, where others were kind of cooking numbers slightly differently. Bottom line, though, is AWS can't fall behind. That will be an absolute damning moment for the company. The change, I think, had something to do with accelerating it. Also, I can't help but think it had something to do with the decision not to go all in with DGX and NVIDIA. It was a bold decision. I don't know that it was the wrong decision for AWS monetarily, but from a perception standpoint, when everybody was running to NVIDIA, AWS had to deal with the resistance, ended up changing its tune to some extent later. And I think that decision looks like it might have caused a little more consternation with some of the customer adoption, leading more people to move some workloads to Azure and Google as well. So a very interesting moment. Good luck to Matt. Congratulations, Adam. I don't think people realize what a big job you've done, and that warrants some consideration. We got two more topics, 8 minutes.
Dan, are you tearing? Did you just tear up?
As a guy that's probably going to get outed of his company at some point for a real CEO, I sometimes get a little emotional.
Dude, you're praying about that, buddy, because that's going to mean good things for you. You're not going to be choked up. So
I'm gonna. What did I read yesterday? The happiest people on the planet, as soon as they're done making their money, they fall off the grid and they just go somewhere and take their money and be happy. So if I can sell this thing, I'm going to Bermuda.
Yeah, that's great, dude.
I don't need to tweet anymore. I don't need people to yell at me and tell me what I can and can't tweet about. Go FY or whatever you'd say. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So a couple of quick notes here at the end. So IBM announced a partnership to offer AI-powered securities with Palo Alto. Palo Alto, if you're not following, and you can check out Will Townsend and Krista McComber, Shira Rubinoff on our team. They do the deep cybersecurity stuff. And I always say cyber is it's a little beyond my remit, but I look at it on a holistic level, and I do believe it is one of the most important trends right now. As AI proliferates, cybersecurity will be a massive opportunity. That's why we've invested big. That was why we did the TechStrong deal. That's why you and I both hired analysts and put a lot of focus on this particular space. But this basically partnership has a combination of using each other's technologies, and IBM does something that most people don't really realize. And that's they have huge businesses on the consulting side to stand up technology from partners, whether that's SAP or Salesforce or ServiceNow, or in this case, cybersecurity partnership. So IBM is going to train 1,000 of its security consultants on the migration, adoption, deployment of Palo Alto networks. And the vice versa, though, Palo Alto is also going to acquire a part of IBM. It's what's called their QRadar software as a service asset. And then they're going to do seamless partnerships. So they're basically taking a piece of their software out of their portfolio, putting it with Palo Alto, and then they're going to use their sales muscle to actually sell it together. And this is something IBM's doing a lot of over the last few years. It's divesting things and then specializing and focusing. And this is something I've really appreciated about what Arvind has done to get that company back on track. So, what is really going on here? Well, with AI and hybrid cloud being the two mega trends that are in focus for them, IBM's in this partnership is allowing them to focus on it, but focus on it through the lens of what their strength is. Being the top partner, this is going to bring a lot of revenue because Palo Alto is going to push a lot of business towards IBM. So this is a really good, solid engagement for the hybrid cloud customers that Palo Alto is going to have that are going to need implementation. They can focus on the subscription and software from Palo Alto. They focus on the implementation by IBM. And so, the other thing that I think is really important is the embedding of Watson X and secure and basically building LLM to improve and optimize what Palo Alto Network is doing. And then finally, the identity stuff related to HashiCorp. Anyways, there's another. This is also going to just close the loop on some of what's needed there. So this is a quick one, Pat. But my take is positive. It fits the MO of IBM and how they're focusing and how they're strong in security, but they're focusing on being strong where they're strong. And of course, Palo Alto is a rocket ship in cybersecurity, one of the biggest, one of the most prolific right now. And so it just further cements IBM's progress.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one. It was not expected, but maybe it should be. I mean, IBM is focused on the hybrid multi-cloud and AI, right? And to do that, right, you've got to double down on the data security and also the identity part, because the identity part can go cross-cloud and data security is data security. So listen, I like the fact that, I don't know if this is necessarily a focus move, but I like this move on the surface. Again, I've got Will Townsend to do the double click, but I like it so far.
Great. All right. Listen, we have one more kind of quick hitting topic, but important nonetheless. Synopsys has been on fire, growing across the board, doing this huge deal with Ansys, Pat, but they are also doing some divestitures to make way for the growth in their focus areas.
Yeah, they are. So listen, EDA, I think in 10 years, the power players are going to be EDA, chip IP providers and foundries. Doesn't mean the chip providers are going away, but there are going to be a lot of other new options. I think the traditional chip makers will expand their portfolios because these EDA tools are just off the rail. And EDA is not just for chips, it's also for systems. And you can imagine a company like Tesla, who not only does their own chips, but does their own cars and everything in between, the ability to use a tool to not only simulate, but also build all of these different pieces of the ecosystem, huge opportunity. So in this spirit, and Sassine, the CEO,
We'll also be on the podcast, the 6.5 buddy, by the way.
Exactly. And it's funny, I've met him over video. I've never met him face to face like you, Daniel. But
good looking guy.
I hope to in the future. Daniel, maybe you can put in a good word for me to the powers over there. But yeah, they sold the unit to Clearlake for $2.1 billion. But these are bold moves, right? And some people thought EDA was sleepy, but Sassine, right, comes in and he's got this huge Ansys acquisition, like you mentioned, and you have to divest to focus. And while there was a lot of value in the software integrity unit, I don't think it was core to the business. That's it.
All right, I have to run, and so we're going to call it a day. I think you hit that one on the head on Synopsys, and they've made a lot of great progress. Look forward to having Sassine Ghazi as one of our featured speakers at our 6.5 Summit, which is less than a month away. Pat, are you feeling it? Are you feeling it yet? I don't know. I'm feeling it. We're going to have 60 plus sessions. We've got a huge list of vendors. We've got dozens of CEOs and top executives. We got the gambit of AI, and AI this year at the event. We hope you'll register and be part of our 5th 6.5 Summit. It's going to be great. Everybody else that doesn't attend, we don't know what is wrong with you. Apology accepted. Pat, I got to run today. Great show as always, buddy. Stay skinny, stay smart. We will be back next week with another episode. By the way, next week my daughter graduates high school. I know. 2 now out of high school. I've done it. And by the way, you and I, where are we going to be? We're going to be at Dell Tech World. We're going to be at IBM Think. We're going to have teams at Microsoft Build. It's going to be a massive week for AI PCs. We didn't even touch on that. Stay tuned. There's going to be so much coming from us, for Pat, for myself. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.